Right, let's catch back up with Ryan Saby, because there has been a cheeky little leaked recording of Robert Jenrick apparently telling a group of students that he can get a deal done with Reform and he can unite the right and therefore block the Labour Party from coming into power. It's a bit early to be talking about the things that might happen in a general election, but if I was a betting woman, I would put a lot of money on the idea that there's going to be no sort of arrangement before the general election. Whether after a general election there might be some sort of coalition to be forged, I don't know. What are you hearing in the corridors of power?
Well, everything I hear from people close to Kemi Badenoch, or even those close to those in Reform, at the moment there's no talk of any deal. You've got Kemi Badenoch, who has explicitly ruled that out. Nigel Farage and his team, almost sometimes you feel like they want to destroy the Conservative Party, and I think they've said as much as that in the past. So you kind of feel that it's certainly not on the cards at the moment. But I think one thing is interesting from all these leaked recordings that you do hear is, it's their innermost thoughts. It may not be something they would say in public to the likes, on TV screens or what have you, but this is their sort of their mode of thinking, the way of thinking, the direction of travel. So I think one of the interesting things from Robert Jenrick, he's not looking ahead to the next month, 2-3 months or so. He's kind of looking ahead to the next, 2-3 years. And he can kind of see this playing out. And he was very personal in this audio clip that you hear. He talks about I this, I that. And I think he just sees himself as someone who can come in and pick up the mantle after Kemi Badenoch if that happens. And actually, this is where he would take the Conservative Party. Now, Kemi Badenoch, isn't going anywhere for the moment, but I think the local elections next week are going to be difficult. She's going to be under a lot of pressure, and that pressure is just going to intensify. But I think you speak to any Conservative MP, the last thing they really want to, well, a lot of them want to do, is hold another leadership election. So just, particularly just at the moment, I mean, I think it would be, political suicide to do it. I mean, she was only elected last November, and I think they all, in the main, want to see, to give her a bit of a fighting chance. And then, if things don't go well after local elections next year, when you combine that with the Scottish elections and the Welsh elections, maybe they can take a rain check. But I think for the moment, I think all bets are off. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But I think they just want to hang in there and hold their fire for the minute.
Yeah, I mean, they seem to have blimmin' leadership elections more often than I have hot dinners. But, it's interesting, actually, that Sir Keir Starmer alluded to a change at the top of the Conservative Party in PMQs today. But from what I'm hearing from people I know in the Conservative Party, is if there was going to be a change of leader, despite the fact that Jenrick is keen as mustard and clearly is fighting for that job, I think that seems very obvious, and I think a lot of people think he's teed up for it. What I'm hearing is when it comes to the powers that be in that party, who still have a stranglehold over the way it functions behind the scenes, he wouldn't be their pick. He's not in their team, that it'd be more likely to go to Cleverly. Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah. I think that's one of the things you do hear, and I think that might be an area which could hurt the Conservatives as well, because I think you could then see maybe Robert Jenrick or maybe allies of him peel off to Reform, and you could sort of see a centre-right or sort of a right coalition that way. But the smart money was, going into that leadership election, nearly the last hurdle, James Cleverly was the favourite. He had the most votes, and it was only because his team couldn't count the votes that he didn't get through to the final two. They got complacent, and he didn't make it in the end. But it was his for the taking. So you just wonder, and I think also the thing is, with all these leadership contests, if you look too keen, you look too desperate, sometimes it just doesn't quite fall for you. So Robert Jenrick can do all the groundwork he needs, but he needs to win over not only the parliamentary party, but he needs to win over the broader Conservative Party as well. Those people who actually vote. So, but I think we're a long way off. I mean, the planning is clearly going on behind the scenes, but perhaps just hold our horses for now.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? There's something very uniquely conservative about the sort of plotting and the factions, and we've all got to have the groups, the ERG, the Northern Research Group, the this, the One Nations, the that, the rolling out Sir Graham Brady from the stationery cupboard again to hand out envelopes and then count them. They're obsessed with it. I've never known anything like it. They're obsessed with it. They spend more time plotting and trying to forge little alliances and having WhatsApp groups than they do actually focusing on the politics. And yet, all these divisions in the Labour Party, which should be apparent right now over the trans stuff, over net zero, over all these sort of, over the economy. And Sir Keir Starmer is still seemingly, despite having a massive, sprawling party, able to hold it together cohesively. Is that just a mirage, though?
I think one of the things is when you've been out of power for so long, you've been out of power for 14 years, it's probably slightly easier to hold your, despite it being, the Labour Party, there are lots of factions, you can hold it all together. His ministerial team are holding it together. There's lots of people who are on their best behaviour because they want one of those jobs. So I think it's easy. I think the trouble is when you are a party leader or prime minister, you get into 2 or 3 years down the line, people are overlooked for a job. That's when you start to find out who the real troublemakers are. So he is holding it together. He's made some difficult and unpopular decisions, where it's winter fuel allowance, removing the universal nature of that, or national insurance. They've been deeply, deeply unpopular. But he seems to be, he's still there, and there's no talk of anyone getting rid of Keir Starmer. They're all very much his team seems to be behind him. So look, I think for Keir, he's got a few years to go and make a fist of it. People have just elected him. He's got a massive majority, but he will be judged on whether he makes the most of that majority. Boris Johnson had an 80-seat majority. That seemed to be squandered very, very quickly. Keir's got double that. Let's just see what he does with it, and they can judge. But it seems like the opinion polls and the public aren't warming to the Labour Party that much at the moment. I mean, it's pretty much a 3-4-way split when you look at those.
Yeah, they're not in dire straits, though, considering it's the incumbent government in a particularly sort of, difficult period of British history. I actually think they're holding up better than I'd have expected, frankly.
Yeah, no, exactly. And, there's trouble on the home front. There's trouble when it comes to stuff overseas. They're being dealt this curveball called Donald Trump, who, it's not just, journalists like me who are waking up most mornings to hear the words Donald Trump last night said, and you think, what has he said now? It's people in Downing Street who can't second guess what he's going to do. The channels of communication probably aren't what they were, because he's making decisions almost on a whim. So it's very difficult for them to second guess. They can, we say in Westminster, they try and war game all these policy decisions and what he's going to come up with. But sometimes when you're dealing with someone like Donald Trump and the unknown, it's difficult. And that's why Keir Starmer and his team have got to be on their toes 24/7.
Indeed they do. And so they should be. They are in charge of something very important, which is the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Ryan Saby, thank you ever so much.